Apart from a few snowbirds and our evergreens, our winter gardens can sometimes look a little bit drab and uninteresting. So how do we add some winter interest to our gardens? Well, today we're going to be taking a look at kale and an all-time favorite of mine, pansies, to see how they can help us with this problem. We're also going to be taking a look at when to buy them and how to grow them, and just to have them be their best. My name is Marlene. Welcome to my home and garden channel. Now let's go ahead and take a look at these wonderful plants. So first of all, let's talk about the resilience of pansies. This day right here, this morning is actually 29 degrees Fahrenheit. And as you can see, they are looking absolutely fresh and fabulous. And these colors complement each other, and I think they work so very well. And if we take a look right next to them to their left, you see that we have some begonias right there. And those are not holding up very well at all. They cannot manage the cold weather. They are both annuals. Sometimes the begonias, you can get them to come back, which I have. But over here, you'll see that this is how they were looking so beautiful in the fall. And now they're gone all the way down. So they're not good for the colder weather. Over here now we have some kale. And this is the same situation as our pansies. They're able to survive very cold weather, and they combine so very well with them. Over here we have some, I call these jewel tones, this nice purple and the yellow. They complement each other so well. And you can see the kale back there, that's a green one that gets white in the center as it gets older. And just some different ways that they can be combined in the winter garden. You can see we have some pansies right there, the purple and the yellow ones. And we have some dusty miller, which is a gray plant right there, and some Swiss chard in the center. And this was actually 2 days actually after it snowed. And you can see how well they're holding up. The only one that didn't do as well was a creeping Jenny, which is the one that's supposed to spill over to the sides. Now this one right here, this is on my porch. This was maybe like, I think 2 years ago. You can see how gorgeous they are, and they're holding up so well in the colder weather. And not only are they beautiful, not only do they add that visual interest, but they smell so sweet. This is one of the sweetest smelling flowers. The purple ones don't smell as nice for some reason, but these yellow ones, when you get out the door or someone comes to the door, it's just wonderful, the smell that greets you there. It really helps to lift your mood. And over here, this is another way that you can have them combined. You can see the pansies and the kale, but you can also see that there is a maidenhair grass on the right, and that there is rosemary on the left. And of course, they are beautiful in flower beds as well. Over here, if you take a look, you'll see that the pansies are looking absolutely gorgeous. The grass is brown, the hydrangeas there are brown, and they still look wonderful. Over here, you can also combine it with conifers. My husband should be over there in the background somewhere. But you can combine them with evergreens, and they're so beautiful. You can see how they styled it there. And there's so many different options available for your pansies. You can see the wonderful mixtures that they have there. So when is the best time to buy and plant these wonderful flowers? We're going to take a look at that and how to care for them. So typically you plant them in the fall, usually when the overnight temperatures are about 45 degrees, because they don't want to be planted in very hot weather either, like in the summertime, unless you're starting from seeds. So since we're using these starts or transplants as we call them, typically, about 45 overnight is good. A little bit, maybe a little cooler than that, a little warmer, but you should not have them below freezing temperatures. So if it's say in the mid to upper 30s overnight for you in your area, you can still plant them in the winter and they will be perfectly fine. Now, if it's cold, of course, they're not going to grow as quickly as if it's a little warmer, but they'll still be okay because they can handle the cold. These were a lot of them that you were seeing over here. They were in my garden center. These were like 4-inch containers, which is not such a bad size to plant in the winter. There's so many varieties then. But what I would say is like these smaller ones right here, like these flats right here, I think they're a little too tiny for the winter because not enough space for the roots to be established properly. So they'll come up and be able to fight that colder weather. So I'd say plant like this type if you see them like in the fall, preferably not in the winter. But if you want to, you can always take a chance with them. For me, I think the ideal size is typically like the 1-quart ones like you're seeing right here, because they have a lot of cushioning in the soil that surrounds them. The roots spread out a lot more because, they just have more space. And the same is true for the kale as well. And aren't these absolutely gorgeous? I just love them. You can see the price right there, the similar 1 quart sizes again. I think they're just so wonderful. And of course, you have many different types of them. You have the green ones, you have the two-tone ones, you have the red ones, and the green ones are the ones that I showed you just a moment ago in my garden, and they get white in the center as they get older. And of course, they also give you nice, beautiful flowers in the springtime, early in the spring. So, like when the bees come out, the bumblebees, they already have something to work with, and that would be the kale. So, it does double duty right there for your winter garden and even into early spring. So over here now, if you are going to be using the smaller ones, I just wanted to show you to get a really large container, maybe like about 14 inches or so, just to make sure that they have enough insulation from the colder weather, so that way you can have your plants do well. And typically, if whatever sizes are available in your garden center, they want the best for you. They want your flowers to thrive. They don't want you coming back and returning them. So if it is available, you can definitely try it. And I'll link this video at the end that shows you step by step how to plant pansies and kale in containers or flower beds. Now, if you're going to do flower beds, I would say maybe about this size would be a good one, and to space them out maybe like about, say, 8 inches apart when you're going to be doing them. Now, these ones right here, these are actually, they call them violas, but they don't do so well like in the center of your garden. These larger ones would do better if you're having them in containers or flower beds, because they're able to, withstand that blast of cold air that comes through sometimes, while those smaller ones, not so much. But I just love them either way. Just use them to suit your needs. And just to say, if you take care of them, and we'll take a look at how to care for them in just a moment, but just to show you here, guys, you take care of your pansies. You can see this is the springtime in my garden, and they are looking absolutely wonderful. My roses are blooming, my lilies are coming out, the creeping phlox is coming out, and you can see they're still holding up very well. And I think they look even better right here than they did, like in the colder months, actually. And I had 3 containers here, 1 larger one in the center and 2 smaller ones on either side. Let's talk about the first thing for caring for them, and that would be watering them. Pansies prefer cold and wet to cold and dry. So if they're in cold and dry conditions, they're probably not going to do very well for you. You don't want to have them having wet feet where they're soaking wet all the time. But it's good to, check every now and then. If the top inch of the soil is dry, you'll want to water them. Of course, if you're getting rain in your area, then that definitely solves your problem. So just keep an eye on them. The second thing would be mulching. Very important, especially when you're just planting them. Make sure that you put a lot of mulch around them. I'd say maybe 2 to 2.5 inches. And there's so many different types of mulch that's available for you at your garden center. It just depends on your color scheme and what you want to work with. But it's like a nice warm blanket over them. And honestly, this happens for any plant in your garden. If they're still up and about, I would say get some mulch and cover them over, so that way they can be protected from the extreme cold. And speaking of that, that would be the third thing to look at. What if a cold snap is coming and you have extreme cold weather coming? This is how bad it can get for your pansies. They are not looking very good right here at all. This was one of those record-breaking winters for us, where it went down to 12 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can see it shows right here. But the good news is that they are not dead. They're annuals, but they're not dead. The little green spots that you're seeing there would be the little baby leaves that are coming back up. This was like 2 weeks in, after that hard freeze and cold that we had. And there were some tulips in that same container as well. So they're pretty resilient. They did do quite well. And just to show you, further in the spring, maybe like about, I'd say in the spring, maybe like about, I'd say maybe about 3 weeks, 4 weeks after, this is how they were looking. So they were coming up, and just, when my tulips had died back, the flowers had faded and I trimmed them off, the pansies came back up, and they did their thing until it was time for me to plant out my spring flowers. So it's just good to, pair them very well and just take a look and see how you can best arrange them to make your space beautiful, even though it is the winter season. Now, at this time here, we actually had like about 30 degrees and we got snow, and they actually fared very well. But just as an added protection, what you can do for your plants when you got a cold snap coming in, is to cover them with a frost protection blanket. And these were at my garden center, but I'll still put a link in the description box. So if you can't get any there, if they ran out, you can always get some online. And just to say, if you've made it this far in the video, you've never subscribed to my channel before, and you love flowers and gardening, be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell twice so you never miss an upload. I do my uploads on Thursdays, but sometimes it may be a few sprinkled in between. And the next thing we're going to take a look at is feeding them. Now, pansies definitely will need to get food more so in the winter because, they need that energy and strength to come up and establish their roots properly and all of that. And these are some examples that you can use here. They're liquid fertilizers. You just mix out the granules in about two tablespoons to 2 gallons of water and just water them every 2 weeks and they'll be good to go. Next, we're going to be talking about pruning them. Now, if they're in flower beds, and I would say you don't necessarily have to prune them. I really wouldn't even try that because there's so many of them and they come together very well. So you really don't have to worry about that at all. If they're in a smaller container, then yes, and you want it to look really nice, I would say, go ahead and just, deadhead them, take off the spent blooms. You can take off some of the little leaves. And of course, the smaller the container, the more you'll want to, make it look nice. But it's not something that you have to do. These plants are pretty resilient, but it never hurts to, just neaten them up a little bit and just freshen the space. And, you can also pinch them off if you like. You don't even have to use a pruner because, they're kind of soft, so they're easy to pinch off. But if you wanted to use a pruner, make sure they're nice and clean. And I'll link these in the description box so you can get those online if you ever wanted to get one of those. It's always good to have a good set of pruners for your gardening needs. And so, sometimes when they get a cold snap, the flowers, you'll have to trim them back or they'll just fade out. And you'll see them coming up back with new leaves that looking like how these are looking right here. And then they'll come again for you and they'll be blooming right into the springtime. So they're a very resilient plant. Now, because they're annuals, of course, when it comes around to the hot months of summer, they're going to go down like these right here. It's a natural part of the process. Don't worry about it. Just pull them out. And then for the following year, you can get some more pansies again. And you can even try planting them from seeds, but you'd need to plant them like, say, in July so they have enough warmth and they can come up and be ready for you for the fall, winter, and spring. So I hope that this, gave you some inspiration to try some of these for your garden if you haven't already. If it's too cold and too late in your area, you can always try the same thing for next year. Just put them in the fall. I should say for the next season, you can just plant them in the fall and then you'll be good to go. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope that you'll not give up on the garden because it's so cold outside. There's still wonderful things to be done out there. And I do hope to see you in the next video. Stay warm and take care.